What's good, beautiful people? My name is Clay Hodges.
I'm Trelani.
Sheridan.
It's your boy Willie to the T, aka Dub T. What's good, folks?
What's good, beautiful people? We want to welcome y'all to the kitchen table. See, this is a podcast powered by Phat Vegan, baby. So what we do at the kitchen table, we get down to the nitty gritty. We talk about all that good stuff that we can't always talk about on the show. So this is the first installment, and I'm excited to be here. How is everybody feeling? How y'all feeling this morning?
I'm feeling good. Feeling
Pretty
good.
Yeah, man.
It's early.
It's early, and they not morning people either. So we're gonna give a round of applause to that commitment. But yeah, we're gonna get right into it. So this is how we structure the show, y'all. So since we at the kitchen table, we're gonna give y'all a feast. So we got the appetizer, then we're gonna come with that entree, and then we got that dessert because life is sweet, baby. And then we're gonna give y'all to-go box. To-go boxes are always good. I love to-go boxes, but I rarely get them. So I be busting everything down. Sheridan, what you got for us, man? What's the appetizer? What you got for us? What's going on?
So what's going on in the world? So there was a versus. Was it last night or
last night?
Yeah. You had Jeezy, and then you had Gucci.
Yeah.
I gotta know who y'all were. I actually didn't see it yet. I was working when it happened. So when I got off, everyone was talking about it, and I was like, "Oh shit!" So, who were y'all rooting for?
Man, I was a spectator.
Teams.
I grew up with both of these niggas. Like I grew up with both of them. I thought I was a little hood nigga back in the day. So I used to bump the shit.
Real quick, we're all millennials. So
yes.
So y'all know this will be from a millennial perspective.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we grew up with these niggas. Mm-hmm. So I was just enjoying it.
When I moved to South Carolina, the first song I ever heard on the radio.
Because I'm from South Carolina. We're both from. We grew up in the same town, but didn't meet until LA.
Exactly. Crazy, right?
Yeah, and went to the same college.
The world's small.
Smaller than you think.
But first song I ever heard when I moved to Columbia was So Icy by Gucci and Jeezy. And I was like, hey.
Yo, that shit used to ride.
That was, yo.
Yes.
You think I'm the it? Is it the chain on my neck? Hold on.
That man snap.
But I'm a Gucci fan.
Oh yeah, same.
I remember going to the corner store in high school and buying his mixtape. Like,
yo, right?
You feel me?
This Gucci
at the bootleg man house.
Yeah, he's like, yo, how did you get this copy, dog?
Lemonade.
Right.
Yeah. Oh man, that's like 2009, 2010.
Yeah, Charlie, what about you, man? You was tuning in?
I watched it. I was there. I waited the 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 minutes for them to get started. I was there for all that.
Oh, you was a real G. You was in
I was there. It was so that was like my whole era too. So like 05, that just take me back to the point when it was like I was grown. Out on my own, had my first little car, my little Ford Focus, with the CD player attached to the with the adapter into the.
Oh yeah,
because I didn't have a CD player in my car.
Yeah, I know.
And that TM1 and Thug Motivation and all of that. But I was a spectator too. I didn't really pick a side going into it.
Yeah,
I didn't pick a side. So I got to just enjoy it. I just got to enjoy it.
I do got to say this though. I'm a fan of both of those guys. Both of those guys shaped me as an artist, and I gotta give them their flowers for that. But I have to say, it seemed like Jeezy was a little more mature. It was a couple moments Gucci had me like, damn.
Some people say scary.
Yeah, it was like he said that, and then Jeezy was like, I'm a grown man, and then let's have a real estate contest. I was like, see, that's what I'm on right there. That's what I'm on. Let's get to this money.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's the thing. Because everyone, obviously, for people that don't know, the anxiety with everyone watching that versus last night was that Gucci and Jeezy had real beef back in the day.
Yeah, they did. They tried to kill each other.
Exactly.
Like, you think you gonna forgive a nigga who tried to kill you? Even if that shit was 15 years ago. Like, no, dude, you tried to end my life.
And that wasn't that long ago when you think about it. So it's like,
I was almost not here.
Yeah, right. And I saw a meme because the story is Jeezy sent one of his goons to kill Gucci, and Gucci ended up killing him instead. And Gucci got off, so he didn't even get any trouble for murdering the guy.
Good,
because it was self-defense. Yeah, it's self-defense, and it's Georgia, so you can't do that.
Yeah, everyone has guns.
Yeah, like come on now, don't run up.
Yeah.
Get done up, and that's what happened. But I saw a meme last night. It was like Jeezy homeboy looking up out the casket, like what the hell, bro?
Oh,
y'all
that
up here singing together.
That is fucked up.
Like I died for no reason, dog.
That's fucked up. But you mentioned something, bro. Georgia, bro. The gun laws is definitely different. And speaking of Georgia, we turn blue. We ain't gonna go too much into politics, but Georgia, the South, man. We from the South. I really want to segue. I want to segue into this entree because we got a special topic that was really new to me, and I cannot stress this enough. It's always dope when you got a historian on the team because I was under the impression that our ancestors, the enslaved Africans, you got to say enslaved. I hate calling them slaves because they were more than that. They were enslaved people. So our enslaved ancestors, they say that all we had to eat was the leftovers, was the pig intestines, chitlins, and all that other stuff that we grew up on. But Trelani had enlightened us and told us that actually they had a plant-based diet. And that was an interesting concept to me because it made sense when you think about it, but I never really thought about it.
Right. And that's not to say when we say plant-based, what we're looking at today. I mean, I'm pretty sure they weren't cooking down chickpeas and making tuna and everything like that. But and it's also not to say that because nothing is in totality, right?
Right.
So of course their diet wasn't all plant-based, but this is just the other side of the story to like you said, to kind of combat that common narrative that all we ate was chitlins and hog maw and the fat back. And it was like, nah, actually a lot of even prior to enslavement, during enslavement, and after, like we maintain gardens. And if we can think about that, like even in our own families, like a lot for us millennials, a lot of us, our parents may not have continued that tradition. I know mine did. Some did, but not a lot. But our grandparents, a lot of them most definitely did. We can remember them having gardens. And the same thing went back through those. Out there. Right, exactly. Through those 3 time periods I was talking about, we maintained small gardens. And if you think about it too, it makes sense because like pig is very high in sodium. How in the hell are you working in them fields all day long? And that's the only sustenance that you working off of, and then a lot of them too, we know from reading slave narratives, which were oral histories actually, where it was like during the Reconstruction era. So if Civil War ended 1865, right? So then after that, I see around like the 1920s or so, the federal government actually employed creatives, librarians, teachers, writers, artists to go out and interview formerly enslaved persons. And so, and they were just, and in their stories, first of all, a lot of them were like already up in the 80s, 90s, 100s, which was mind blowing.
Right. They're living a long time.
Living a long life. And it's not to say it was a good life, but yeah, living a long time.
And you would think it's because of what they ate. And if you don't mind expounding on that, because I'm curious to know too, like what kind of stuff more, did we really eat, historically speaking?
So we did eat meat. Meat was very expensive though. If you talk to a lot of elders even today, and then too, meat was expensive. So we ate a lot of whatever.
Shit.
Meat's still expensive, huh, bro?
Depending on the meat you get.
So it was whatever you could cultivate from the land. So that's kind of a difficult question to ask because it really depended where you were. But of course we had our sweet potato, we had the okra, you had corn, potato, and even it was a thing that I learned about called acorn stew. So it's taking acorns and cooking them down. Yeah. So it's really whatever you could come up with. And even too, sometimes a lot of those pig scraps that we would find, it would be cooked in with the vegetables to make a stew a lot of times. Yeah. But Yeah, most of it, a lot of it was plants. It was plants. And even some of my elders used to talk about, because I actually have a project, Crack Tea, where I interview elders, Black elders over the age of 80, about what life was like back then and what they remember from their parents and their
Shout out to Crack
grandparents'
Tea.
life. Bro. And they talk about sour grass, which I had never heard of before.
Yeah, that's
But
sour grass.
they ate a lot of sour grass. And if y'all think about too, even for us millennials,
Hold on, real
particularly
quick. What is sour grass for the folks who don't know?
Yeah.
sour grass,
I have no idea.
What is that?
It grows wild, and it actually looks like a little flower. It looks like a little yellow flower, but I never personally ate it. But obviously, it's edible, and it's so small that it just made me think about how much had to be eaten to get any kind of sustenance. Because it's like it's just like these little bitty plants. I mean, but maybe when it's grown wilder, maybe it's bigger, but just small. Just it's so small. And I'm trying to remember the other name of the other one. I can't remember the name of the other plant that also grew wild too. But yeah, so it's just a lot of plants, a lot of water, of course.
And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense with what their day-to-day duties were anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Tilling a personal garden after you are done with your shift for the day, so to speak, is really just in line with what they knew.
Right.
Type of lifestyle.
And even sometimes too, which I learned this from a college professor of mine, which blew my mind back in the day then, was even like the table scraps that they would get from the white enslavers. It was oftentimes the most nutritious part. So if you take like broccoli or like collard greens, right? We mostly want the leaves from it. Most people discard the stems, as they did then too, and they would give a lot of their enslaved, population, people living on the grounds. The Africans, they got the stems, and it's like that's where the most nutrition of the produce is in the stem itself. So even the scraps given a lot of times was produce.
Oh wow! And I got a question too. So where do you think this? I wouldn't say it's a myth, but this idea that all we ate was like the pig scraps and all that other stuff. Like, where do you think that came from? Like, why do you feel like people kind of disregard the idea and the fact that we had gardens and we ate off the land? Even though it makes logical sense because that's what we've been doing before we got here. That's what the folks who've been here before, the colonizers been doing before they got here. So it's like, where do you think that comes from?
I try to think about that too. I try to figure out that myself. One thing that I do come up with is I know a lot of times whenever stories are passed down, a lot of times the trauma aspects, the most hurtful, harmful parts. For one, that's what we're going to remember the most. But for two, for whatever reason, we tend to hold on to those aspects of it the most, because that was, and I never try to dispute that because I get a lot of that pushback on like, no, trying to romanticize, and it's not romanticizing about it at all, but there's also a lot of power. I try to push back. My pushback, it's a lot of power in telling the whole story, not just what happened to us as victims. Yeah, a lot of time when we were given the pig scraps or and all the other crazy atrocities that happened during that time, but to also try to remember, what did we do for ourselves? And what we did for ourselves included maintaining gardens. What else did we do for ourselves? It was a lot of fight back. It was a lot of resistance. We know it was, so telling the whole story doesn't happen a lot of times in many instances.
History. Think about it. American history is written through the colonizer's eyes. Right. So in order to keep Black people thinking that we weren't shit, of course they couldn't write down in history books that, Black people, the Africans actually were healthy. They ate from the land. Like,
I learned a new thing from one of my Negroes today. Like, you're never gonna see them giving if anything, you'll be history. Like, I taught my Negro this, knowing damn well that you actually just learned it from them and you taking the credit.
Exactly.
Right. It's so cold.
It's our education. I mean, our education system as a whole is curated that way to keep us stupid.
Right, absolutely. And it's so cold.
Keep us ignorant. That's a better word.
It's so cold. Like, a lot of the stuff that were invented by African people, and all these people, all these enslavers did was slap their name on it. My slave did it, so this is my property. I invented this. It's crazy. It's so cold. Exactly. And I literally I was looking at an old history book. You know, I ran across one when I was moving out to California from like elementary school or something, and I was like just reading through it. I was just like shocked, like the limited amount of information that they included about African people. It just was crazy, and I was like, dang, this is crazy. They really was like telling us this is all they told us. The only narrative we had was that we were slaves.
Right.
Yeah,
They don't even say we were enslaved. We were slaves. It's like when you have when that's all you know of your past. It's like when you grow up, you kind of still even have that mentality. Plus, the system that we all living in is still remnants of that. You know what I'm saying? We still are enslaved
in so many ways.
in so many ways. Oh, I told you we don't be playing at the kitchen table.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Right.
But
then
know,
too, shout out to Raising Free People.
Hey.
When we try to change that and break away from that enslavement, and one of my biggest advocates is doing that through our children. And I'm big on that, raising my children to be free faster than me. I don't want y'all to grow up and then self-emancipate. No, be freer faster. That's scary to us, though. I learned that's scary to us. To me too, and I'm not going to try to exclude myself, but yeah, when I just talk about a lot of practices and how me and my children, because a lot of times too, we say we homeschooling our kids, right? But then all we doing is just taking that same oppressive curriculum and bringing it home and installing, you know what I'm saying? It's the same thing, just at home. So we said, nah, deuces to that. We're not doing that. So now we just learn, just actually learning the actual physiological process of what learning means and how it takes place. And we do that naturally and that scares a lot of people. So your kids not working on algebra, or they not? Nah, we're not. Or
I call that free range children.
Right.
Word.
Yeah, we're
unschooling, self-directed learning. Yeah.
How much do y'all use algebra today in your adult life?
I don't know. I haven't used Pythagoras in a minute.
I sure ain't either.
None of that shit.
But that's part, like, if you can see, if people don't believe what we're saying, think back to when Willow and Jaden were first on the scene. People were up in arms.
People were freaking out.
They were just living their life, doing things how they wanted it to do.
They were free.
Yeah, they were free. Yeah. Will and Jada gave them agency over themselves.
Right.
So they were exercising that and the freedom of being a privileged, wealthy child, that you don't have any of these concerns other than what you think you want to do in your mind. So, and that's evident to see because they were very talented. And imagine if they had some suppressive parents, oppressive parents. So, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this is learned behavior. And at what point do you break the cycle of this? And I understand a lot of people are like, this is how I was raised. I turned out great. But it's like, did you really though?
Did you?
What you're trying
yeah.
You're surviving. You're not living.
Right.
Yeah.
You have your trophies, but what's going on up in there?
Exactly. And you don't want at least me personally, I wouldn't want my child to be a carbon copy of me. I want him to take my best elements and go even further. So it's like, if you want to express yourself in a way that is unorthodox, do that, because now look at them. They're sitting pretty. Jaden has his own production house. He has his own water company. He's literally saving Flint, Michigan.
He did, and remember he did the food truck in downtown.
He did the
LA
food truck
for homeless people.
It was a free food truck which had an attached shower.
Food.
Yeah.
Oh, and it had a shower.
Yeah, it had a shower attached on the back. Wow. Exactly. So it's like he's about going out and actually engaging with the population and really trying to help the world be a better place. Did you guys hear about? I don't remember what this dude played for, but he was young. He was like 19 in the NBA. He played for some team. Yeah. And he paid all these people's salary during the pandemic, but the owner of the team, a fucking billionaire, wasn't paying these people shit. Yeah.
But he, I guess he must
think
have been
you're
Gen
talking
Z
about
because he was
Jason
19.
Tatum.
Yeah, so he's Gen Z also, and I guess however he was raised, he had the mind to let me help
Which
people.
is another thing, because when that pandemic started and all those athletes started doing that, that is another example of the employee, even though they're very well and paid employees, the employees handling the costs of the company, because the company never said, "Oh, let me reach out to all these stadium employees that aren't going to be working." They just said, "Well, good luck to y'all. We got our PPP bonus check
basically
for whatever for nothing, and we're not going to give y'all nothing, but we're going to have our employees, these players, reach out and come out of their pocket and do what we should have been doing anyway. And it's still going to look good on us because they're a member of our organization."
Man,
so
we all we got, man.
We all we got.
You can't allow anyone to use you like that.
Right.
Even if you are coming from a place of good intention, you have to use your power to help keep everyone accountable. That's more valuable in the long run.
Boy, I hear you over there, Reverend Willie. God,
I'm off my soapbox, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm off my soapbox. That's all.
And another thing, going back to Willow and Jaden real quick, so it made me think about when you were talking, Willie, about how we were raised. So we like to go back in the past, and we feel like if it was done, we have this, I don't know what to call it. Y'all might think of a better word for it. But anyway, so when we think about just back then, we think of like perfection. We think of our ancestors as like gods. It's like, it's like whatever was done then, like we need to bring it back now. And it'd be like, nah, like just the same way life is happening now. Life was happening. Yeah, we evolve. And a lot of things like that whole concept, West African concept of Sankofa, you look back and go back and grab and bring it back to the present. But I think it's more to it than that. We have to sort through that shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, just go through the habits and the traditions, and some of that shit just need to stay in the past.
Someone need to stay.
A lot of it, we bring it the fuck back. A lot of it need to stay back there.
Absolutely. And it's like, we constantly, I feel like we always got to be constantly evolving, and through our children, they're constantly evolving. They're being a better version. That's how real change happens. And where we were in the 60s and where we are now, it's definitely, we're a different group of people. We're handling the situation a lot differently. We have different technology. You want to know what's crazy? Let me tell y'all a story real quick. So, my day job that I have right now, which I probably won't be having really soon because I'm gonna be doing a business full time. Shout out to that. But I work for a company, and I go to people's houses and I measure their floors for like carpet and stuff like that. I hear a lot of stuff while I'm in people's houses in their comfort zone. I be going to so many different people's environments, and I just be the fly on the wall a lot of time. And I was listening to this radio station that this lady was listening to, is a conservative station, and the guy was talking about the culture. What's the it's just like these classes that when people bring awareness to different cultures and different peoples and the way they live like that. Essentially,
cultural awareness class.
Yes, it's pretty much a class for white people. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah, so it's a class for white people to tell them about other people, how they live and what they've been through. And he was just so offended by the idea of it. And like, I could tell that it scares him. He was like, these classes are pretty much telling you to hate white people and not be a Christian. I was like, what the hell? I was like, what the hell? Like, what classes are you in, bro? Like, because these are type of classes they have in these big companies, like these cultural awareness type of classes. And he was like, they need to do away with these. I'm glad that Trump was trying to do away for these because they're just saying they hate white people. It's like, no, we're giving a perspective of another people, not to say that we gotta hate white people or this or that or nothing like that. It's just like, this is what actually happened. This is history from these people's perspective, and this is why they feel the way they feel. So you have to be understanding and be sensitive to how you coming at people. And it just blows my mind. You know what I'm saying? That just blew my mind.
And the funny part is those are the people that need the class the most.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what we're talking about.
Like you said, accountability feels like an attack when you ain't ready.
Right. And I say that to say that as we're evolving, it's a lot of people are afraid of that, man.
Yeah,
they're afraid of that. And I ain't even just talking about like black folks. I'm just our generation in general. Like, we're evolving, we're changing. This whole culture is changing. We're watching it change right before our eyes. And it's people who are afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, and we had this conversation on the podcast. On my podcast.
Hey, shout it out real quick.
Shout out at Clear the Haze. You can find it on everywhere you listen to
That's what I'm talking about.
Podcasts. But we're talking about how people are really just over the status quo and how the people in charge are truly afraid of that. And that's the driving force behind there not being efficient change in the world, is because those people in power want to maintain that power, even if they weren't the direct people to institute that power for themselves.
And they'll do anything to hold that power.
Exactly.
Listen, people love power. People will do anything for power. And you think then people are gonna lose power?
It's intoxicating once you have power too. You lose yourself. It literally is a drug. It literally is a drug. So, you know, it's interesting to see just from an outside perspective looking in, if we're talking institutions of power socially, economically, and racially.
Do we have time for another question on this topic?
Go ahead.
All right, I'm curious to know how y'all feel about, so in our relationship to the current powers that be, how do y'all feel about respectability politics? One of them being like changing the way we speak when we in front of whatever that power might be, whether it's a job or the education or code switching. But code switching, I try not to use that term more because it runs a little bit deeper too sometimes. We do code switch even within our own many circles too. But code switching, but even the way we dress, this whole, and even down to another conversation I was having recently, what we name our children. Scared to name our children names that are too Black because we don't want them to be disregarded on the job applications or whatever. How do y'all feel about respectability politics? Like, do you feel like it keeps those current institutions in place, or do you feel like it's necessary sometimes?
Man, this is how I feel. I feel like, first of all, there's so many types of different people. And I thought about that a lot. And with me moving through life, I found a nice middle. Because I try to go by the Buddhist practice of taking the middle path always. And the middle that I found is to always be myself, but speak the language of the people that I'm talking to at that particular time. So, and that don't mean I got to have no accent or nothing crazy like that. That just simply means to just speak that particular language of that situation. Like if I'm in a job setting, I'm going to dress for the part and I'm going to speak that language while still being myself. If I'm back home, I'm in the hood, I'm hanging with some of the homies, I'm going to still be myself. I'm going to be comfortable and I'm going to speak their language. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel about it. What about y'all?
That makes sense to me too. I mean, as a 6'5" Black dude with now locks, you know, it's very easy to intimidate most people. Even Black people be acting scared around you sometimes. Like that's how deep the trauma and the indoctrination and the propaganda goes. Is like you're Black too and you're still scared of me walking up. And I get it, like danger comes in all forms. Black people ain't perfect, nobody's perfect, but we're in this public setting in an elevated status. You should recognize that in me the way I recognize it in you. And that to me is why we shouldn't spend a lot of time trying to make other people feel comfortable around us. Because as a person that used to do that a lot, it still never got me anywhere because it's been that way for so long that you learn to accept, not really accept it, but realize that that's how people are going to be. So you might as well just worry about yourself. Exactly. Like, put it this way. I was student body president back in my school days. We went to take photos for student council. The photographer, this is in South Carolina, mind you. The photographer was like, where's the president at? And I was like, I'm right here. And he was like, you're the president? I want to recount. And this is like early 2000s. So I'm like, wow, this is
extra racism.
This is crazy. Like,
but South Carolina, the level of racism there is on a whole other fucking level.
Exactly. Like, but that's the thing. Like, you can be that successful and people still think about you in a negative light. So there's no point in being anything other than yourself.
Sheridan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I completely agree with what both of you guys said, but to add another level to it, you got to add, I mean, intersectionality, that matters too, because I feel like for
pause, define it. Word to Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw.
She just dropped the word.
Intersectionality, it basically is about oppression. So, okay, me and you, Willie, we're both Black, so obviously there's that. But you're a man and I'm a woman. There's that. So there's a certain level of privilege that you still have as a woman that I don't have as a man. And then add in there being straight, queer, whatever that may be, that can be another level of oppression. And then add in there your socioeconomic status.
Right.
Because Oprah as a Black woman has more power than I do as a Black woman at my socioeconomic status.
Yeah, as a man.
Yeah. So it is very, I don't know, it's so complicated because I feel like at the end of the day, you should always be yourself. But also, as a woman, as a Black woman, I have to know when I'm in certain spaces and how I can behave if I want to be respected or taken seriously or get what I want.
But it's like what you and Clay were saying. It's just the awareness to understand this is where I am currently, and this is what's going to allow me to accomplish my goal.
Exactly. And even like in a job interview, like whether you're a Black woman, white, Black, whatever the fuck you are, if you go to a job interview, you're going to dress a certain way to get that job, no matter who you are.
I disagree.
Well, no, but that's where I say intersectionality comes into it, because a white woman is going to get that job before me, no matter how she dresses. At the end of the day.
So in what way do you disagree though, Trelani?
So I actually, I tested it, when was this? 2015, 16, I don't remember, but I was partnering with the city of Savannah and I was doing art workshops and writing workshops for like the kids in the community center over the summer. So through that program, we partnered with the Jepson Center for the Arts. So that's through the Telfair Museum, which is this huge old ass institution here in Savannah. And I had to go to this interview just to see if I would be the person to do it. And I'm going up against, and at that time, had I graduated from SCAD yet? I don't even think I had I? I don't think, no, I hadn't graduated from SCAD yet. But I'm going up against all of these white women who do these art projects, and I'm not a visual artist. I'm a writer. You know, I'm a visual artist in my own way, in my own bedroom, but when painting. But so I was like, but I went in there and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go in there wearing my my coochie cutters, my Daisy Dukes. And I had on my little and I had my lock. And I was like, because initially I was like, oh, I need to get my locks retwisted before I go. And I remember, that's one thing about me when I am high, like I feel like God talks to me. I do. And I felt like in that moment I was spoken to, and it was like, no, like I'm tired of them hiring somebody. I'm tired of being hired for my performance or for my presenter. Like I want to see how far Trelani gets me. And I went in there, and long story short, I got it. But then fast forward to another experience when I graduated from SCAD. They hit me up, but it's like alumni who went on and did great things. I forgot what they called it. And they wanted me to come to this dinner that they were having for their established alumni. And I was like, all right, cool, or whatever. And then they sent out this preparation material. And it was basically saying at the dinner that they would have all the, the fancy forks and the knives and stuff. And if you don't know how to do it, we have a free little class that we're giving at this particular day and time.
Oh my God.
Wow.
They're so extra.
So extra.
Bougie.
So I hit her up and I was like, once again, just had that God talk. And I was like, because at first I was like, man, I don't want to have to do this. And I was like, I was like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to have to withdraw myself. I'm not coming because this feels very elitist and that's not in line with who I am. And so she was like, okay, are you sure? Whatever. And I was like, yeah. 2 weeks later, and now this happened while I'm at the Library of Congress. 2 weeks later, she hit me up and she was like, hey, so I remember when you backed down for these particular reasons. So now we have enough opportunity. We have a conference coming up, the Embrace Conference. And I would love if you can come and just talk about that exact thing and being yourself and being a Black person, a predominantly white space. So I end up getting a greater opportunity.
Goddamn.
Spotlight me because I chose to be myself. And that happens to me a lot. Even that's how I got my Library of Congress opportunity, from refusing to be what I thought they wanted me to be to get into that space. I was like, no, I'm going to radically be myself. And what I found too about that, like not all white people, but for one, my work with KRAKTEET, KRAKTEET, what it involves like a lot of Black history, right? White people love that shit. So that whenever I'm speaking publicly, for one, most of my audience gonna be white, and for two, it's like even when you are being yourself, like if I'm just coming like this and I'm talking how I talk, it's like they get ravenous. They just want to.
But this
engulf that shit.
This is what I want to say. I completely agree with you. But also, I think that's a certain space. It was SCAD. It was a creative space. If you were to try to go to corporate white America on Wall Street,
right,
being yourself, they're not going to embrace you. You see what I'm saying? So I think, and that's why I say it's so complicated. It's situational. Yeah. Because in that situation, like hell yeah, I would have. And that was one thing that I feel like drew all of us to SCAD in a way. It's like you can be yourself truly. Now, that's a truly loaded statement. That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Even in those Wall Street corporate America environments, like we still. Because if we don't never, like, that's why you have that whole argument of like wearing locks in those spaces. And that's why that became a big thing. Well, okay, well, now you can do it. Now it's okay. Because as long as we continue that same narrative telling ourselves they won't accept us with locks, they won't accept me if I'm not doing, if I have tattoos or whatever, we're going to keep ourselves in that space. But what, like, we needed somebody to, we got to push it. We needed somebody to be like, nah, I'm having my locks. We need that.
Did you read that story about the black girl on Wall Street? No, it was a black girl a couple years ago now, I think. But she got on Wall Street, like in the first, like maybe the second or third woman, but the first black woman to be on Wall Street. And it was kind of crazy.
It's funny you say that because I just started watching this new show on HBO called Industry. There's only 2 episodes, and the main character is a black woman on Wall Street with locks.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, it's dope. It's dope because you see how she's like trying to finesse her way in. Even you know, she's qualified intellectually, but you know, on paper she's starting from the bottom. So she's got to like fabricate some stuff and just be excellent at the same time. So it's cool to see that, and she's like living in this space, but then she's like in her own space, and she's you know living in that you know goon lifestyle low key.
Right.
You know, it's pretty dope.
No, that is dope,
and it's a British show, so it's uncensored.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to check
dope.
that out.
It's like if you ever watch Skins, it's like that.
Man, that's beautiful, man. And just talking about like that, just working her way up from the bottom, and that's some sweet shit right there. Which just kind of
and can I just make one more point on before we move on to that?
You just messed up my spot. Was got about to smooth this thing.
I know.
Hey, Willie.
No, I know.
Willie said, hold on.
I just want to hit the emergency brake.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I feel in my spirit. I just gotta,
Go ahead, man.
Yo, so I really believe that just to end that point about, you know, acceptability politics and stuff, if we begin to encourage our children to not seek jobs but seek endeavors that they own and create, and they can then operate however they want to regardless, because you own this and people will want it if it's awesome, and that will come whether you're dressed in a suit or not. So you can go to your boardroom in flip-flops and swim trunks if you want to, because you're coming with the money and you're coming with the product, and they got to take it however they get it because it's yours.
Straight up.
That's all that I wanted to stress on that.
And I'm gonna let y'all know too, off rip, when we goddamn make this a multi-million-dollar company, I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? As long as y'all don't come naked. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. We gonna be in the boardroom with goddamn flip-flops and shorts and coochie cut. I don't give a fuck.
I got a Speedo I've been dying to wear.
Oh, man. Get that in the Speedo.
Well, can I do one last point to end it out too?
All right, we're gonna let you get one too.
One last. So I feel like a lot of times too, when we go into these spaces and we perform, right, and then we come outside of our performance, I think that's where we get a lot of those narratives too, coming from our white peers, where we say where they feel safe around certain black people because they feel safe around our presentations and our performances, and then when they come out of those spaces and now they see they hear this and they see this, now that's scary. like because we help to create that divide of like, nah, like when we look like this, we safe. When we look and sound like this, we not safe. And I'm just, and I like to think of myself as like that bridge. Like, nah, I'm nice to meet you. I'm introducing you to like
the real,
straight up.
The real.
You feel me? I feel the same way too, because a lot of people I be communicating with in my day job right now is white folks, man. And I'm a bridge, so a lot of these folks, they don't even be knowing about our culture. A lot of folks, I holler at them even after work, just be chopping it up with them. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to goddamn end this right here. We're going to get into this next segment. This is the dessert, people. This is like the best part of the feast. Like, this is where it gets sweet at. Where we got that cake and the lemon pies. Oh, gosh. Speaking of dessert. So, essentially, in this segment, we're just going to talk about some sweet shit, man. Like, stuff that's going on in our lives. Something that's going on in the world. Something good that we heard. Some good news, because they love to feed us negativity all the damn time, and this is refreshing to hear some good shit, man. I'll pop it off like some sweet shit. Like, I'm really taking control of my life right now. Like, I'm really taking control of my life. I was in the rut. I got a relationship. It really put me in the rut, and I'm taking back control of my life. I'm getting back into some kind of routine. I started back running again. You know, I'm actually taking the time to be kind to myself, to be compassionate to myself, to truly love myself like I have never loved myself before, and to get to know myself a little more. And it's been a tough road because there was a lot of resistance within myself wanting to do that, because I was so used to something else and I wanted it. And sometimes I still do, but it's like I'm starting to be more comfortable with just me. And it's a lot within me to be happy and comfortable with. So it's like, here I am, people, Clay Hodges, and I'm gonna keep on growing, keep on improving, and keep on elevating. So what's going on with y'all, man? Give me some sweet news, man.
Go ahead.
I started back plugging. So I used to do this thing. I was living in the DMV for a little while, and I had went back to work when I was staying up there. The cost of living was crazy. And that kind of threw me back in that spiral of anxiety and all that stuff like that. So I had created this thing where I would do 3 things every day. One of them, unplug at least once a day, no matter how long it was. Give myself permission to just stop thinking about one thing. Just one thing. And then number 3 was find some kind of source of pleasure, right? So lately, and I was talking to some young people, and that's the proud part about it. So these teenage girls, and not even just teenage, they run from about 15 to about 19, up in that age range. And we were just talking about how, like, comparing ourselves this time of year, the comparisons are crazy. Like, first of all, like at the end of the year, it's the colder months. Naturally, we tend to get a little fluffier. And on top of that, beginning of the year, you know, that's when we set goals and we launching them and everything like that. At the end of the year, you kind of in a very introspective, self-reflective mode, right? And it can be easy to go down on yourself, to talk down on yourself, on like comparing yourself to where you want it to be to actually where you are. And if you ain't careful, like, this can be a depressing ass time in the sun. We're not getting as much sunlight as we want to. So all of that. So it's like getting to talk about all of that with the younger girls and share that, like, my process with them, what I do, because unplugging helps so much, like cutting that shit off, just cutting my phone off. Like, you know, I try to do it at least 3-4 hours out the day, you know, in the prime of my day. So like, even once we wrap this up, my phone is about to be off from like 3 to 7 p.m. And that helps, you know, to give you some perspective. So being all tuned in all the time, like, man, that keep that anxiety and that self-deprecating thoughts just spiraling. So I'm proud of myself for just taking a break and sharing that information and helping other people too.
That's beautiful. What about y'all, man? Tell us some sweet news, man. What's going on?
You got some sweet news?
Yeah, Willie.
Oh, you asking me? Okay. So
you got some sweet news?
Shoot, some sweet news for me, man. I mean, my news isn't as deep as that was, but you know, I'm just happy to be happy, you know, if that makes sense. Like, like you said, there's been so much going on and it's constantly being thrown at you, and it's never this is what's happening, but here's what we're gonna do about it. It's just this is what's happening, and everything's just spiraling.
Yeah,
so it's like
that's
it's too much. So at some point, I don't know. Something clicked where I was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, and none of this ultimately matters. Because even if it does, you can't change it. It's gonna play out how it's meant to play out, and as long as I do everything within my life that's gonna keep me and my people okay and safe, everything's good. So there's a song that I like to listen to a lot whenever I feel like, things are getting piled on, where it's literally, it's just a deep house track and it's real chill, but the woman, she just says, focus on the positive. And that's all she says the whole song. She just says, focus on the positive, and it's dope. Maybe we'll play it one of these moments, but honestly, that's the truth. You just have to make the decision to focus on the positive, and everything else will just work itself out. Like it always seems to. So I'm happy to be happy.
I love it.
I guess my good news is kind of along the same lines. Like, I don't really have anything that specifically happened recently, but I'm just like, damn, like, this year's almost over. I still have a job. I just moved into an apartment that I love because I lived in a studio. It was so tiny. Me and my partner lived in this tiny little studio, and it didn't get to the point where we hated each other. We just hated being in that space. Right. And it's a pandemic, so we couldn't go anywhere except work at home. So it's just good. And then my roommates are amazing, like friends from college. Now I'm like, dang, I've known them almost 10 years. Like, so I'm in a good place with good people, and I have a job, and like, like things could be really bad right now because I feel like collectively it has been a bad year. I'm not going to discount that. Like, this year has been trash collectively, but I feel like, damn, like a lot of people are struggling right now, and I'm blessed that I have a job, a home, and I'm kept. Like, so yeah.
All right. So we all doing pretty good over here from the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I'm in LA. Like, I live where I've always wanted to live.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I literally manifested this shit.
Los Angeles.
So
I might go to the beach today.
Right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not? Why not? Shoot. Well, that was some pretty sweet dessert.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'm full, y'all.
I know. Me too.
So do we have a to-go box for the folks out there listening, tuning in?
Yes. So for our to-go box, a piece of inspiration, one of my favorite quotes, it kind of reminded me, Willie, what you were just saying. And it was like, and I forgot his name who said it, so look it up. But in our pursuit of happiness, don't forget to pause and just be happy.
That's
That's really good, especially for our generation who's constantly feel like we gotta grind. We're trying to be excellent, and it's like, why? Well, at what point are you gonna be happy with where you are?
You won't.
You
be
won't. Present, guys. Just
be present.
Work on being present,
because the presence is a gift.
It's always something else and something else and something else. It's always
What you got to expound on that with, Clay?
Mr. Creator.
I think he's having an outside conversation right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why, I just want to
even. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I guess that's that on that.
That's that.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. But
thank you for joining us at the kitchen table.
Yes, premiere episode.
Yes.
It's myself, Willie T. We got young Trelani on the track. We got young Sheridan on the track, and of course, we got the boy Clay Hodges on the track. Holla at us next time. Be easy.
Peace.
Peace.